Good morning.
Good, y'all sound excited. I'm certainly excited. I want to call the Community Development Committee meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, if you could note that Councilman Bailey and myself are here. And Mr. Brennan, can you confirm your presence via Zoom?
Yes, not yet present in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So I'll call the meeting to order. I want to move, if you all don't have any objections, we're going to move the approval of the minutes down to the last agenda item. Do you have any objections to that, Mr. Brennan?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Tyler, do you have any objections to that?
No, I don't have any objection. Councilwoman Herbert?
All right, so we're going to start with committee discussion, update on modular homes with Ms. Krista Hampton. And just to give a little background, most of the council folks, I'm not sure if staff went through was it PTSD? How we learned the difference between mobile homes and modular homes, and the status of modular homes and their use. And so we made some quick ordinance changes last time, and I wanted to make sure that we had a full discussion on that. And I honestly was wondering, industry-wise, is modular homes, is that something that different places are using to address affordable housing? So Krista and I had a very good conversation, and she is going to take us further.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. So I passed out just a summary sheet to discuss the difference between modular housing and manufactured housing, because I think that often is confused. And a modular home is a home built in sections in a controlled environment. And then those modules, hence modular homes, are brought to the site and a contractor assembles them on site, on a foundation, just like a stick-built home. It's built to local codes, and so local officials have purview over that. Manufactured housing, which sometimes people call mobile homes or trailer homes, those are fabricated entirely in the factory as well, put on a chassis, and then delivered to the site and may move again.
Now, can you clarify chassis?
Chassis is kind of the underpinning what it sits on, so it doesn't necessarily need a foundation. So you can kind of roll it in if you wanted to and roll it out. Oftentimes they'll put what's called a skirt around it or something like that. They are not subject to local building codes. They are subject to the HUD building code, and it usually comes with a sticker. So the City of Columbia, we do not permit manufactured homes. Modular homes are now permitted. However, as you mentioned, we did recently pass an ordinance that's in the very beginning, the Columbia regulations about repurposed modular home units. So those used for residential purposes may not have been used previously. So the only way you can have a modular home is if it comes straight from the factory with the certification and is a new modular home. We could not prohibit them based on the second section that I provided for you from the South Carolina regulations that says that we can regulate them via land use or zoning. However, they must be regulated just as stick-built otherwise. This is the new ones that have the certification.
And so, just so we're clear, we are not going against state law, nor will we be subject to any type of lawsuit because we have limited the purview of our ordinance.
Yes,
Okay.
we are not in violation of the state law at all. It does not say anything about those that are repurposed, only those that are new.
And so just for clarity, it wasn't the City of Columbia's decision to allow modular homes. That is state law.
That is state law. So that is what this regulation on the second part that really does preempt us from considering them in any manner other than just a stick-built home.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
what's the biggest difference between the manufactured home or mobile homes and the modular homes? What's the biggest, because it seemed the same.
It sits on, like a chassis, like your car.
Okay,
Usually we'll have a tow piece, and it could come in a couple of different sections. But, that's the primary difference, that it really can be moved again oftentimes if you wanted to. They aren't always. So that is one consideration that people have had with regard to affordable homes, is for the longest time, they actually weren't considered real property and they would depreciate, as opposed to, a modular home is just considered like a stick built and would appreciate. There is talk about that that's not always the case any longer, but people would get stuck buying these and it wouldn't be a appreciating asset
Yeah.
necessarily, it'd be a depreciating asset.
And so just so I'm clear, along with Mr. Bailey saying, modular homes are not intended to pick up and go.
No, it's
But
like,
can they pick up and go?
just like any house, you can pick it up and go.
Okay.
I mean, but it's placed on it's secured to a foundation. And then the plumbing is run and the electricity is run, just like a stick-built house.
Because with the mobile, they have all of that stuff within the,
Correct.
okay.
Correct. And there is an argument, so going to your question about affordability, a number of the large national organizations that are working on affordable housing as an issue have been advocating for modular as a piece of that because, two reasons. One, the product to market is faster. I saw something about the National League, Urban League, quantified it at about at least 2 months.
Wait, who?
The Urban Institute,
Oh, okay.
quantified it at least 2 months. The reason being is that when you're in a factory, you're building the same thing, you can get it out faster, and it's a controlled environment, so you don't have weather delays. That also can lead to some people saying that the quality may be better because you have the same people always working at the same piece, and their hours are more regular, they're in a controlled environment. The other part of the affordability is that you can buy all of these pieces in bulk, and so that your product can be more affordable. So you've got the American Planning Association, the Lincoln Institute, Urban Institute, a number of these organizations that are actually advocating for local governments to allow modular. Obviously, we do, but there are some that have been prejudicial against them because of their association maybe with manufactured and people not knowing the difference.
when you say prejudicial, you mean people just maybe not thinking too highly of them?
Yeah, thinking that they are just like a trailer that may depreciate and that they're not as good quality, when in fact, sometimes the quality can be better because of the controlled environment and the working conditions. They've got, I don't know, I used to follow a kind of a modern magazine called Dwell, and they used to, I mean, you've got some super high-end modulars that are out there too.
I've seen
Some
those.
really modern ones, all the way down to, just your starter homes. So modular comes just like stick-built in a great variety.
They're actually appreciating assets? Have they been around that long to really, I guess, studies show if it's really an asset to, like a regular home would be for somebody?
Well, because once it's on the site, it's really indistinguishable, largely. I mean, and especially now because I think the technology's gotten better, that it's not just like a rectangle. You can do a rectangle and a square and push them together, and now they've got two-story modulars, and so they'll put porches on them. So kind of like the Sears kit houses, I don't know if you remember those in the early 1900s. You could order a house from
Read about it.
Sears.
No.
From
Yeah.
Sears?
From Sears catalog, and they would deliver the whole house.
Wow.
And
There's
then
some homes, there's
in
some
Elmwood
communities
Park.
that still have.
Elmwood Park?
has some Sears homes. And so those were kind of your
Wow.
original modular homes. And of course, they're indistinguishable from a stick-built house.
It's not a new concept.
So I guess the other question is the materials that are used for modular homes in controlled environments. Is that any different than the materials used for a
Stick-built house.
stick-built house?
No, they have to meet the exact same local building codes.
Okay, so there is no such, the house won't last as long or it's not as durable.
I mean, you've got ranges of durability even with stick-built homes. I mean, you
Well, and I
can,
guess if you had the exact same home,
right.
exact same materials, but one modular and one up from the ground, could anyone say that one is an inferior or one is superior?
I don't think, with any evidence.
What I was gonna say, and not because of their personal preference,
Right.
but because there is some evidence that says it's different. Okay. Mr. Brennan, did you have any questions?
Put some pictures of
Oh, wow.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, I had a question. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you very well.
Fantastic. Krista, a question on mobile homes and annexing parcels into the city. The city of Columbia, we would never annex a property that currently has a mobile home on it, would we?
We try not to, just because it becomes non-conforming upon annexation, but there are some parcels that may have, one that's not being used or that it's at the end of its life where the parcel is, strategic that we need. But we are adjacent to some mobile home communities, and we have not pursued annexation of those.
Is there a way to make that a non-starter? If there is a mobile home, regardless, we will not annex?
I think we could use that as a policy if that's the council, and we already do to some degree, but if, it'd be good to have that direction and we can make sure that we continue on that path.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to see a draft of what that would look like from staff, if that's all right.
That is perfectly fine. Ms. Krista, do you understand what the ask is?
And what might be useful, we're about to update our urban service area, which is the council policy that guides our annexations. We'll be working on that the latter part of this year into early next year. And that might be the perfect place for that to be located.
And I just,
Okay, great, thanks for putting that on.
and just for clarity, Krista, I think what I heard you say is there have been instances where we, the city, have needed a parcel. And so we may have annexed, not because someone wanted to annex in, and they might have had like a old trailer, a mobile home.
Correct, yeah, if we're contiguous and if, let's say a parcel brings us to a contiguous to a piece of land that has a mobile home on it and it's strategic for one reason or another.
Right.
Maybe it's about to be redeveloped, so it would be good to make sure this is nuanced, if it's going to be redeveloped and the mobile home removed.
And that's what I was wanting to
yeah,
say, because
that
I'm
might be
assuming that it would then be
Right.
removed.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Whatever reporting structure we could put in place to ensure the removal before the redevelopment.
Right.
or could it be nuanced at least enough that we could, as a council, consider still annexing if there is a mobile home? As long, I understand if it was like a mobile home park, but if there's one or two mobile homes that we could possibly be grandfathered in and then eventually phase them out, could that be done?
They're already we don't have any.
They
We have a
they would be
few.
considered non-conforming, they could not be replaced. It used to be we had quite a few more, but there's not as many anymore. But yeah, it could be that we just, it's up to council, we could bring them to you and you all could vote. It could be a tipping point if you've got more than this many.
Yeah, I think that should probably be an item we should maybe explore here, what Councilman Brennan's saying, an ordinance on it, and probably flesh those things out. I'm just wondering, there's some donut holes in near District 2 that I specifically know of that have maybe one or two mobile homes, but I kind of credit that towards there just being no attention in that area, so.
Are they, is someone currently residing in them, or are they just vacant property
I don't
just
know.
sitting? Okay. And then this is just a question that's always in the back of my head, and you also can't even have a trailer in your backyard that's not your main home, or can you?
Mobile homes,
Yeah.
that would be considered another dwelling unit, so no.
Oh, okay.
We
You
do
couldn't
allow
call it a
accessory.
mother-in-law
We
suite?
do allow accessory
Yeah,
dwelling
mobile
units.
home.
If you wanted to build an accessory dwelling unit, those are permitted under certain conditions.
Okay,
That was part of some of the changes in the last code.
okay. No mobile suites. Yeah, different dwelling.
But Krista, those accessory dwelling units could be modular.
Correct, yes.
not mobile.
Yeah, there's some communities who are actually, because the housing crunch is so great, there's some businesses that will just come in, plop them right down, ready, put them on a foundation, and so, yes.
Oh,
I think there's a community, a development in, is that West Columbia, of the tiny homes, modular,
Yes.
Mhm.
where they did exactly that. I think those are permanent on foundation. I don't believe they're mobile.
Right.
I think we need to go see those as a committee, Mr. Brennan. Hello? Mr. Brennan, did we lose you?
I'd be happy to get on a bus and go.
Well, and I do believe sometimes just like seeing stuff does make a difference in the perception.
Well, to
Any,
your point, Madam Chairman, I think understanding the quality of construction that goes through the modular factory line
mhm.
to blend in with surrounding communities, there would be some exterior masonry brickwork that would have to be done separately. But I think a modular home can adapt an exterior to fit into any community.
I believe so too. I do. So, Ms. Krista, we have, Mr. Brennan had one thing that he wanted to see, and then Mr. Bailey also wants to see something else. Do you have those two things in your notes?
Yes, and they're both related to kind of manufactured housing, and my
Yes.
suggestion is we'll explore that as we're updating our urban service area as one of the policies within that, which will be coming very soon. Because that's, I think, the most appropriate place for it to reside.
Okay. And when you say urban service area, can you, for the folks who aren't familiar back here, can you explain that to them?
Certainly, the urban service area, we established that, goodness, I think in the mid-2000s as a way to have council guide the policy of where to annex. And that's when you see in your write-ups, you'll have a primary area and a secondary area and donut holes. And that was developed based on where service provision to be made. So we need to revisit that. We do revisit that with the
Okay.
service providers like police, fire, solid waste. So there's stormwater, there's a number of considerations that go into that.
So that makes that's a complete connection with what Mr. Bailey is talking
Yeah.
about.
Right.
now.
We
And
may
so-
need to change that.
It is council's policy about annexations, so that's where everyone would look. So if there's something to be said about structures on it, that's the best place for it to go.
I like it. Any more discussion, Mr. Bailey or Mr. Brennan, on item number 1, or 2, modular homes?
None for me?
So the second topic, discussion of design and materials in housing developments. This comes from a couple of discussions that we've had, a couple of things. Going back to, I guess, materials and what we are using as a city when we're making our products, as well as looking at communities as they're going through revitalization, or as we're trying to do all of this infill, trying to preserve not the entire look, but some of the character of some of the neighborhoods. And so, for instance, in my neighborhood, we have 20 brick homes, and there was one vacant lot. And then there's a home that's not a brick home. I don't know the exact material, but it just kind of sticks out just a little bit. And so looking at ways, maybe even overlays that will take a long time, not a long time, but it's a process. I wanted Krista to kind of go over that with us. So recommendations or materials that we use, and we have our development folks here and our city folks here too, as a part of that discussion.
And so for the first part about city projects, I don't know that there's any policy
I
that
don't think so.
directs what materials are used in city projects.
Do y'all have a policy?
We have just standard housing standards, to ensure that it
Wanna come up here? Y'all wanna
Come
come
to the table, maybe?
into the fold?
That's real low.
Thank you.
but just standard housing.
So is there anything that would prohibit a vinyl or?
And I think that's kind of what we're thinking about, without too many details. I just recall being in a meeting, you know, and as council folks, we're in certain meetings and preferences are made of, you know, we really wouldn't want all vinyl siding, neighborhood of 250 homes or something like that. It's a general discussion, but then as we are trying to revitalize and handling some of these projects ourselves, I think we just want to make sure we're consistent. So not telling folks one thing, but then we are doing something that's contrary to that. So that's where this conversation kind of came along. And I guess what I heard the most was vinyl siding. That's probably been the biggest issue that I've heard one way or the other. Krista, do you have any opinions on how we could address that going forward?
Well, with regard to city projects, I think that would be a policy issue or your board with the TN Development Corporation. Although, let me just clarify, I believe you generally your folks use hardy plank,
Plank, yeah.
right?
Okay,
Which
so this
looks-
wouldn't cause problems, is that?
No, it's a fiber cementous material.
And it looks like lap siding, but it's made out of wood and cement, and so it has
I hear
the
hardy plank is,
longevity
yeah.
Hardy
Real
plank,
nice.
hardy plank.
Yeah, hardy
There's some
plank is
other
good.
folks that make it too, but they were the first.
does it look like vinyl?
No, it looks like wood,
Looks like wood.
Vinyl can also
Cutters.
look like wood as well, right?
not for long.
Tried.
That's probably hardy plank. Yeah.
You heard me say not for long.
Not for long?
And it requires a lot of maintenance.
There's also different grades of vinyl too, though, so.
Yeah.
Some of the vinyls that you see may be very less expensive
Mhm.
and probably don't look as good shortly after.
Vinyl is priced in thickness, starting with .40 to .50. .50 is the more expensive. And the .40 is what you see kind of in the newer developments where the tract homes.
And we don't regulate that.
No, and there has been legislation introduced at the state level to preempt local governments from regulating the application of vinyl siding. I don't know that it's gained traction.
And we aren't gonna go beyond that either, because we're really looking at our products. But going back to what you just said, does that mean that there is a vinyl siding product that is on a higher end that is just as durable and doesn't need extra maintenance as maybe the hardy plank?
The the ones that are thicker and they have a material that resists ultraviolet light. Those tend to go like for about 40 years.
Is it same thing as regular house?
Paint, it depends on whether you're organic. If you're painting over wood, it usually goes about 20.
Okay.
Non-organic is a lot longer because it doesn't expand and contract as much as wood with organic.
So are we getting into more of a nuanced conversation?
A little bit, yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's why we have.
Yeah, that's why we're here, and that's what Jeff was saying. So maybe we look into that, because I don't want to, and I think y'all understand the intent. The intent is to have good quality. And if there is a level, if y'all are telling me there is no level of vinyl siding that we should be concerned about, let me know.
Like the .4 is a concern.
Yeah, it would be a concern. Well, not a concern. It doesn't last as long.
Yeah,
I did-
anything that has that
Right.
kind of associated
If you
with
could pass
that.
that down.
If it's a known fact
Yeah.
that it doesn't last as long, or then we don't need to be.
It's on the second
The
page.
wood's pretty expensive when it comes down to repairing. Let's say you have a house that built in 1905, and you need to change all the wood, that could run about $50,000 probably, right?
Correct.
That's why you only change little sections
Yeah,
as they
it's-
mess
it's-
up.
So I live in a over 100-year-old house with
The second
wood, and it's rare that you would ever have to replace all of the wood. But it is easier just to replace sections.
Yes.
Now vinyl, you have to replace it all.
I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I
I mean, you can, yeah, and you can see the wavy gravy part of it.
I can see now.
Yeah, and it does get the mold on it. So you have a balancing act here too, because you want products that are affordable. And so obviously lower grade vinyl is more affordable. But then over the long term, as far as once the owner is in possession, the cost of ownership can be greater. So, you know, do you put the affordability on the front end where they can afford the house, but then it might cost more in the longer term? It's just a balancing act.
Well, and I think particularly with some of our projects and depending on the neighborhoods, we don't want to put the onus of higher maintenance costs on the individuals, is what I would think, because they may not do it if given the option. Is that, like I've seen these kind of things before.
That's a moisture issue.
Yeah.
We can probably talk
We
about
live in a
vinyl
moist
on
place.
modular homes too.
Yeah.
That's one thing we probably really need to look out for. The vinyl on the modular homes are already manufactured, just drop down. I can see this becoming a problem.
Oh,
Green
and
algae.
yeah. Oh, especially, and, well, anyway, folks, we tend not to know about the moisture issues until you start seeing, no, really like until you start seeing the problem.
Right.
So let me add one other thing. So I'm going to add cement board is not the panacea to all maintenance issues, and I know from personal experience, I'm standing here, so I'm picked up.
Cement board?
Yeah, Hardy Plank is a brand name.
A brand, yeah.
So you have other ones that do it. I live in a community that's all brick and Hardy Plank. Hardy Plank gets painted. We are in the south. The sun beats down on those. I have seen homes in my neighborhood that within 3 years need to be repainted. Because it all comes down to the builder and what quality of paint they're putting on those and what type of warranty they have on them. And warranties mean nothing because they're gonna have to repaint the whole house because you're never gonna match once it starts to fade. I've seen it in numerous neighborhoods, so I'm not saying that I'm a big proponent of vinyl either, but everyone needs to understand there are issues no matter what you do. It's part of home ownership, it's part of a cost no matter what you do. If you're gonna do vinyl, you probably need to do a more higher end vinyl
That's
that
what
looks
I'm
better.
thinking.
But if you're gonna do Hardy Plank or something, that doesn't necessarily solve all the problems because they're gonna fade. And I'm just telling you, I know from personal experience, it's not cheap to repaint and they can look really bad if you don't. And your neighbors will get fired up. So,
You telling us about someone you know about? Just-
yes, in addition to that, could be one of my neighbors. They're not watching this. So, and then the other thing is if we're gonna have continued discussion, I'd really like us to consider the difference in the cost of these as well. So I have an example because as a city, we have contracted out with a group that is working on different homes right now on redevelopment, and a few of them we've had to tear down and build from scratch. We do have vinyl on some of those, and we have Hardy Plank on, and it was actually Hardy Plank was used, and the cost differential was $8,000 to do that house. So we have to consider the cost of what we're trying to make affordable. $8,000 is not a small difference when someone's going to get a loan for the home and everything else. It's still, long-term, we don't want cheap vinyl on it either, though, but those are some of the considerations that have to go in.
I think that's the part that you just said. I just don't want us to be in a position where someone said we built something that was clearly inferior. So because some things are debatable. We don't worry about debatable, but the thin, I guess, the thinnest, I don't know how you categorize that, but and I think it would help us if we could say, and we don't use this because we know it's not a good product. But I don't know how to make that definition. I don't know how to distinguish those, so maybe that's something
We can all
we can work out, yeah. But does that make sense? Everybody get? And I'm just saying it because we do have a lot of different projects going on, and I've been in different settings and heard different things. And I was like, ooh, we might wanna be on the same page, with that. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yeah, what we can do is coordinate and see if there's a minimum grade that maybe HUD has to use or that, I mean, you, you,
Yeah, maybe
I
just
don't
take the
know.
minimum out. I mean,
yeah, and
they
the,
won't use the minimum grade.
the city would then use only this and above on our projects, is that where y'all?
Mid-grade and above.
Yeah.
Mid-grade is 46. Just,
And is that acceptable? I mean, what does that mean though? 46?
it's a mid between 40 and 50. It's the middle grade.
But it's better life
Better life
expectancy,
expectancy,
better
it doesn't-
maintenance.
It doesn't crack or warp as much.
Right.
So yeah, we'll
Okay, I'm
defer to
sorry.
y'all. Well, no, we'll defer to y'all to figure out what you think is the recommendation.
And I was told on the other projects we were doing that there was a higher grade vinyl, but I don't know what that means as far as the numbers, so I'll follow up on that as well.
Yeah, I think that
Brings
46 you say is upgraded grade.
Yeah,
It
it's
says
the
that it's a
beginning.
good choice, with extreme temperatures, enhanced durability.
What are you reading?
It's, on the second page, the
Oh, the different grades.
comparisons.
Can somebody email this to Bill? Yes. I mean, like, what are we talking?
I didn't, I just printed it off from my computer at the office. I don't have it on my phone.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm gonna get this to somebody to scan. Well, we're gonna get you the handout. My apologies. Cause I want you to have that. Are you still here? I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan?
I am, thank you.
Okay, we'll get that to you in a minute. All right, so I think we understand that as a city, we just wanna make sure we're sending the message that we are not using the minimum grade siding to help revitalize communities. See how it sounds?
And I think Krista said something about maybe you can do a percentage.
Well, that's what, with this conversation, or the brick conversation.
With a percentage of vinyl siding, maybe you can only use 50, I don't know if that, you can do that or
Well,
not.
that would then go to Jeff's point, though, that it would increase
dollar.
the cost.
Yeah. I'm fine with, well, so that's one aspect, but we're gonna deal with the percentages through another way.
What about because this seems very nuanced, what do you think about a resolution that maybe we draft up, kind of giving guidance about what council has in mind for
Well, that's
city
what we're
housing
getting into.
without it actually
Back as the
being
staff recommendation.
a overlay or something, because I just think, I'm not a builder. And
Yeah, me neither.
I just don't know I don't know the difference between mid-grade, high-grade, low-grade, hardy plank, low plank.
Well, so, but that's why I'm saying let staff come up with that and tell us we have given them the intent or what our goal is and let them come up with the best way to implement or express that.
Maybe reiterate the intent, affordability, maintenance, long-term.
Well, Madam Chairman, to Mr. Bailey's point, we also know what doesn't fit in from construction exterior. So I think that's very important. If we're gonna bite off a program on properties, I think it's very important that we make sure their community character remains.
And that kind of goes into the other discussion, dealing with overlays that could potentially help some of the brick neighborhoods. And of course, those neighborhoods would have to want such a thing. And I did mention it at my meeting this weekend and some folks got excited, but that's before they know what it means in the process and so forth. But I did want Krista to kind of discuss with us what that process looks like, or what the options are, or what recommendations. So I'll just throw it out there, because again, I don't know. But I was like, can we say a certain percentage of the front facade has to have some brick? I don't know what that number should be, where it should come from, and who should decide it, or which looks, right. But I will say I was impressed on Cody Drive. There was a house, the whole front was brick. I had no idea that it wasn't all the way around, so I thought that was kind of
So
cool.
I was going to add that, even before you brought that up, so some of the projects that we've done recently, depending on the neighborhoods, because some of them, there's a lot of brick homes around them. So I believe, and I'll check to see how many we've done, it may just be a handful, but we've done brick face, and then it may be either a vinyl or cement sides. And that seems to be, and I think in the last 20 years, we've seen communities that do that quite a lot. It seems to be, I think there's opinions on that, that vary depending on who you talk to as well. But you're correct on a lot of times if it's done well, people don't even notice it. And when you point it out, they'll be like, whoa, I didn't even notice that. I don't even know if that's worth being noticed. It probably depends upon the neighborhood and how close homes are and things like that. You know, if your homes are 20 feet, 10 feet apart, you might not notice it. But if you're on a bigger lot, it might be more noticeable. Does that make that an issue? I don't know. But I will take a look and see.
And it's
we get some
expensive.
pictures of some. So that's the other issue.
Yeah,
The
that's a big
reason we
thing.
looked at that was we had limited resources that had come to us from the state to do these projects. So we're trying to help as many people as we can. It wasn't really feasible to do a full brick for the entire house, but it also didn't look like it was gonna really fit the character of the neighborhood if we just slap up something completely different than what everything else around it looks like.
So yeah, I think that's why I was definitely leaning towards some type of acceptable percentage that doesn't take the house out of the affordability status or allow us to be able to do the work that we want to do. But that and developers coming in, because that's the other thing, the developers come in and they drop those, I don't think they're modular too many. I think the one in my neighborhood might be modular, but we have so many, at least in 1 and 2, and I think, Will, you have a lot of vacant lots too.
Yeah.
Trying to have some kind of, not control, but am I saying control? But we want to have some input in how the communities are redeveloped and how these properties that are coming, being put into somebody help me out.
Community character is what Councilman Brennan
Yeah,
referred to.
yes. So,
Madam Chairwoman, Krista, don't we have design standards? Because I hear this from the Rosewood Neighborhood Association about exactly what, Councilman Herbert's pointing to is, facade expectations for a certain percentage, whether it's up to X amount of exterior square footage, you can use hardy plank. Do we have any of those standards in our current design standards that and I'm just referring to new construction.
Only
Do
in
we have
historic,
that in place?
in historic districts we do.
So only in historic districts?
Community character districts, which I'm not sure if any of y'all were around during that time. It was an interesting time, but that only relates to, the size and the setback of the home. Depending
We
on.
could set requirements for, and I think that's where this conversation is going. We could set requirements and expectations for the level of finishes on the exterior for projects that the city does or is a part of.
That the city does, absolutely, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
you can't do it for non-city projects,
You can do it for non-city projects, it's not going to be as easy.
right?
It's an involved process, it's pretty intense, time-wise, it wouldn't be all that dissimilar to creating a historic district. Because you need to meet with all of the residents, you need to have public meetings. My suggestion, just right off, would be that it would be standards-based, it wouldn't be something that goes to a commission, it's like you do or you don't, and if you don't, I'm sorry.
I like that.
But determining, it's easy if it's just brick. If you start going into neighborhoods where it's more nuanced about the quality and the materials, that is a lot more challenging.
At this moment, we're only talking about brick, because that's all I know. But I think that is something, that's where I am, brick. And I'm only saying it in areas where there are predominantly 90% of the homes are brick. Other folks may have other issues, but that's the one I hear the most about, I guess.
So, and just for clarification, Ms. Herbert, you're talking about a new construction in a predominantly brick area, housing area, would have to continue to have brick.
A portion, what I'm thinking of, a portion of the facade, the front facade. Yes,
You know, I agree with that. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was pointing to.
yeah, it's kind of like the facade standards that you mentioned a while ago. I wrote that down.
So similar, you would want to make sure that the neighborhood's supportive of it. So as we used to go through any of these other regulations, it would be incumbent upon the neighborhood to make that request to the council people, and then the council people to have us proceed with that.
And I will say too, some of the, I was talking to Windermere and I was like, y'all are already, the question is, you all already have so many homes that are not brick that have already been put there, that I think that's their call on whether or not they think it's a level. But so Krista, the first step, and if this is not an overnight, this is not a 3 month, 6 months process. It's gonna take a while. Okay, but the first step would be seeing which neighborhoods are interested in it. Okay. Sounds good to me. And then Councilman Brennan, dealing with some of the, we keep circling around the concept of what we do with these infill properties or vacant lots. Did you have any suggestions for going forward with those? So I think.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, thank you. And I have discussed this with Mr. Palin, with the inventory of vacant city-owned parcels, putting together kind of this all-encompassing package of teaming with home builders in a program that is a conduit to partner with a bank for a low-interest mortgage through bank partners, and really focus on essential workforce housing for not only just the city, but the school districts, county government, state government. I think pairing those two together would be a great way to revitalize many of our neighborhoods in a quality manner, and rebuild some of our community character. So I'd like to request that we start formulating what a program like that looks like. I think we have a lot of the pieces of it that we've done in the past, and then setting a profile of what a partner home builder would look like. That is something I would really like to take a look at citywide, but especially in District 3, which encompasses a lot of downtown neighborhoods.
And so what I'm thinking, maybe for our next meeting, the smallest possible step. The smallest possible step would be to go over just the listing of those homes, because different property is purchased with different money and may have different limitations. But I think that would be good to just start with going through that list to see what's available and feasible.
I'll agree, but I'd also like to maybe see a review of past mortgage programs that were run through the city and how those could be updated to if we got to go out and find new bank partners, it'd be a great time to start the conversation.
CRA fund, entitlement committee.
One area that you may want to look at is the Lion Street community where the old Gonzalez Garden used to be. So I know a lot of federal dollars went into that particular community to help jumpstart and turn that neighborhood around. And so and federal dollars used to help build those homes as well as make mortgage loans in that area as well.
When you're asking for a list, you're talking about the city-owned properties that we have throughout.
Yes, city owned.
We have them between the city and the development corporations.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the same list that had like 32 properties in 2022.
So
Maybe not.
We'll pull that together.
Okay.
For, when we say next meeting, that is June.
A month from now.
3rd, okay.
We do have properties that we demolished, but we don't own them. But I think there's efforts to reach
Yeah,
out to those.
so there's kind of, there's
Because we can't
there's
build.
15 different lists of different types of
Yes.
parcels that are in different stages. So I had a
We just
discussion
want
on this
city
earlier.
control,
So
that we
we'll
can-
start with those, the
Right.
city controlled lists.
Because we would have to purchase or do consent agreements with folks to, for the ones that we've demolished, or give them $5.
And we're just talking about more of the home type parcels, or do you also want to include the other city lots that we're looking, that'll probably be more developed into something else other than just single family housing?
I was referring to single family housing.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarity, Mr. Brennan. Anything else for the good of the group?
Nothing from me.
So I'm trying to do better at going over what we've discussed. Krista, you want to go over what we've discussed today? What are our outcomes and that we plan on working on, just so I can make sure that your notes are.
Sure. So with regard to the modular and mobile, I think that the action item that came out of that was talking about manufactured housing and annexations.
Oh, yeah.
So that we will, put that as an item when we're bringing to you the urban service.
Urban service area.
Discussing how that would fit into that and make recommendations, and you all can help guide us in that discussion. With regard to the materials, we three, Community Development, TN, and myself, we will work to discuss what the minimum standards are for city projects with regard to the utilization of vinyl.
Like it?
And then we will await any direction on potential neighborhoods that may want to pursue
It's in their court.
regulation with regard to. And then, once we do that, the mechanism, it would be another overlay that we would have to create. So that would be ordinance changes that we would come through with while we're working with the community. So
Okay.
we will stand by for that.
And the list of properties, which I think that's already in the works.
City-owned properties, residential, vacant,
Single family.
single family. And then, current, because we still have our programs, we still have our lending programs going now too.
Yeah, but how that syncs up with the specific parcel and a specific home builder that's, willing to work with us in that timeline, I think is important.
Okay. I think what would be good is to look at what we do have and then see where the gaps are. And then bring the partners in to help with those gaps.
Yes, I would agree.
You don't have to agree, but it's a discussion. But we'll work through that.
Sometimes it's just easier to agree.
No comment. No comment. Any other questions, Krista? Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here as well. Didn't know y'all were gonna get invited to the table, did you? Anything else? Mr. Brennan, you're good?
Good, thanks so much, everybody.
All right, and Madam Clerk, we're gonna just go ahead and defer the minutes until the June meeting. And with that, we're going to adjourn.
Thank you.